Hey guys, welcome to another video. This one's going to be probably a pretty short little filler video because I don't have too much to say about this machine. Sometimes I wonder about the value of just doing these random OEM machines, but I know some of you guys maybe like had one of these when you were younger and you have sort of nostalgic memories for it and you like seeing these videos because I've done a couple videos like that where I've just kind of these random OEM machines and people kind of like them because maybe they had one, when they were younger, and it was just nice to see it again, I suppose. So, really quickly, I'm just going to go over this little guy I picked up very recently. Actually, it was given to me by a friend who was getting rid of a lot of computer stuff. And this is one of the machines he gave me. And this is the Dell Optiplex GX110. Now, the Optiplex was, probably a lot of us are familiar with the Optiplex. It's been around for a while. It was kind of Dell's cheaper, sort of, it wasn't a gaming computer. It was kind of budgeted for the educational market, maybe like small businesses, things like that. So not really a home, personal use, gaming type OEM machine. But this one's from around, around 2000-ish, give or take. This came in a couple form factors. I think there's a mini tower, there's a full desktop. This is the super small form factor. So it's very akin to the compact EN that I did a review of, oh geez, it was like 2 years ago now, give or take. I guess I'm using cards now. I'll link to that video in one of the corners. I think it's that one. Because that's a very similar machine. So yeah, let's take a look at this thing. We see the sticker here for Windows 2000, Windows NT, and Windows 98. So right there, that tells you roughly the era of this machine. Pentium 3, no reset button or anything like that, very kind of Spartan front. All we have is the power button and the LED light for power on and off. 1.44 megabyte floppy drive, and this kind of peculiar looking DVD drive. And as you see, the button is on the drive itself, and we'll see about that in a second here. Not too much else to say about this thing. It is pretty small. I think it's probably the same sort of width as the compact EN, but I think it's a little bit shorter. So, but still, it doesn't seem like it takes up really less desk space. If we're, because I'm just saying the compact EN because that's the closest thing I have to compare it with. Unfortunately, I no longer have that computer, so I can't set it next to it, but it seems like even though it's a little smaller, it roughly takes up the same desk space where it really wouldn't matter which one you had. Okay, taking a look at the back pretty quickly here, we have printer port, serial port, mouse, and keyboard PS2, of course, 2 USBs, I believe these are 1.1, another serial port, built-in VGA, Ethernet, and then we have the audio. This is a mic, and then line in and line out. On these little tiny small form factor ones, I usually only see mic and line out. I usually don't see a line in, so I guess that's a nice little bonus thing here. And then we have 2 expansion ports for expansion cards. Now there's 2, whereas opposed to the compact EN had 3, so a little bit less expansion capabilities, but I guess that's how they got it a little smaller. So let's open it up. There's the tab here, and same on the other side. And opening it up is pretty easy. You just push these in, and then you pull up, and it just pulls away. Alright, so here we are on the inside. Now, if you'll notice that CD-ROM drive or DVD drive, it uses a smaller floppy type Molex connector. That's because this is a laptop drive, so this isn't like a full 5 1/4 inch bay drive on this thing. It uses a laptop drive, and I guess that's because it's smaller. I don't really like laptop drives. I mean, they operate the same pretty much. Doesn't really matter if it uses the smaller floppy one. Usually you have enough Molex bigger ones on these old machines. Actually, usually have less of these. Sometimes only one. not all. Usually you have two, but it doesn't make a big difference. But I do find these laptop kind of optical drives to be a little bit less reliable than their larger counterparts. They seem to be a little bit less sturdy. Also, you find them less. Now, these aren't rare, uncommon by any means. There's tons of laptop drives out there, but let's say it dies. On any given day, I can pretty much go into any Goodwill around me and find a 5¼ inch, like a regular full CD-ROM drive for a couple bucks. Usually it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's the risk you take at thrifts and second hands. But even if I go down to like my local old computer recycler, they'll have a ton of those, and they don't always have the laptop drives. So although they're not uncommon or anything like that, they're a little bit harder to come across. You have to do a teeny bit more work to come across one, especially if you want a second-hand one just going to your local thrift, where the bigger, the regular 5¼ inch optical drives, they seem to be a lot easier to just randomly come by if you just kind of want one and roll the dice and go to a thrift and buy one for $2 or $3, because I don't see the laptop style ones too often or as often in places like thrifts. Not a big deal at all. Not even really a negative, but just something to consider. I don't really consider it. I would rather have a larger one. Alright, so here is the expansion bay thing. Now you just pull that and then you pull this off. It works pretty much like the compact EN. And you have two PCI slots. Now right here, I just have, I think this is some kind of GeForce 2 MX card, I believe. And this is just a USB 2.0 card here. So kind of limited there. You just have two PCI slots, but I guess, if you were going for a Windows machine, you could put a PCI Voodoo 3 in here, and then maybe like some kind of like a Vortex 2 based sound card here, PCI sound card. You'd have a pretty decent Windows 98 machine. Now, I never saw a picture of one, but looking online, it appears there was an option to get this riser card with one PCI and one 16-bit ISA slot. I don't know if those actually exist. They probably do. I just couldn't find one. But that would make this really cool for DOS, because then you could have your video card PCI, because DOS doesn't really care, and then you could have a 16-bit ISA card. So that would be really cool to have the ISA style riser. But for Windows 98 or even 2000, that is not bad having the two PCI. Of course, more is always good, but two is manageable. You get your video and sound card, which is, for gaming, those are like the two bigger things for expansion cards that you want to care about. CPU, this is using a Coppermine. This is, right now, it is fully upgraded to the 1 GHz Pentium 3. So this takes the Pentium 3s. If you want to put a slower one in, you can. But yeah, it doesn't use, I don't know if this ever came in the slot 1 form factor. I know some of the early compact ENs came in a slot 1 form factor, but this is not. I always forget the name of this socket. I think it's PGA 370 is what they call it. I don't know why, that's the one I always forget. But yeah, this is a 1 GHz Pentium 3. Alright, and then over here we have the RAM, and there's only 2 slots for RAM, and this takes a max of 512 megabytes of PC100. Now I'm using PC133, which will downclock to PC100, but I did have read of some incompatibilities with people trying to use PC133, and they didn't work for some reason, so it might depend on the brand. So yeah, 512 is the total, and PC100 SD RAM. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Usually, you'd think if you had a 133 megahertz front and side bus that supports your CPUs, it would be the same for the memory. But there is a story behind that. There were some legal things going on. They had some kind of contract with, I forget the company's name, but it's who they were contracted with to do the RD RAM boards and stuff, and they had to put some limitations on their machines at the time. So I think that's part of the reason, maybe all of the reason why this is limited to PC100, not PC133. I'm not sure about that, but either way, that's how this chipset, particular chipset, works. So kind of a proprietary connector back there. This isn't a Pentium 4, but it still uses the aux. I think that's a Dell thing. Dell like to have those kind of proprietary power connections. They're kind of annoying like that. Power supply, I believe, is strangely in the front, right here, and it is under the optical drive. Yeah, so that's the little weird proprietary power supply. So if this dies, it's no going and picking up a generic AT power supply, although you could probably mod something, but I hate that about Dell. They love their little proprietary power supplies and connections. Here's the hard drive. I believe, I don't know what size this came with, but I believe right now it has a 40 gigabyte drive in there. It probably came with a smaller drive, maybe 8 or even 20, not really sure. Floppy right here, and it does have two IDE connectors. Sorry, it's kind of dark, but they are ATA66, I believe, so not too bad. And you can support 4 drives, so 2 each, of course. There's no room to add anymore, so I guess that doesn't really matter. Not too much else. There is integrated video, but it's like the Intel integrated onboard video, and it's really horrible. CMOS battery, 3COM, that's probably, I'm guessing, for the Ethernet card. This is for the modem to connect up. And right here is the CD connector for your onboard audio. The onboard audio is, it's like 3D Max. I forget exactly who does that. It's not the greatest, but it's okay, especially for Windows. DOS games, I think it's the same sound, built-in sound that was in the compact. Again, it didn't really work. I had a lot of incompatibilities issues with it in DOS games. But Windows, it kind of works fine. But again, if you had one of these and you wanted to upgrade it to like a kind of a retro gaming machine, the CPU is fine, RAM is fine, but I would strongly recommend that you upgrade the video and sound. You just use these 2 slots, one for a video card, one for a sound card, and you're good to go. I mean, these 2000-ish Pentium 3 machines usually they all do really well as sort of retro DOS or even Windows machines. I think this machine, unless maybe you get the one with the ISA slot, this makes a lot better kind of Windows 98 machine. I guess you could even pimp it out to be sort of an early Windows XP era rig. But yeah, other than that, it's okay. There's things I don't really like about it. This isn't, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I have a lot better machines than this. It's small, but I would have preferred to see it a little bit higher, maybe get 3 expansion slots on there like the compact, but, you know, it's fine. I know there's some people that maybe had these in schools back at the time, so they have a little bit of fondness for this machine, but it's not bad. It's okay. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. So, yeah, this is kind of a shorter video. I didn't have too much to say about this machine. Pretty kind of generic OEM build, but I know some of you guys like these videos for nostalgic reasons, I suppose. So, yeah, and this is something that you might find pretty cheap just laying around at a thrift, because I know, pretty sure a lot of schools or little businesses probably had a couple of them, and, you know, they're quite outdated now, so... some of those businesses take a while to upgrade, so you never know, someone might just get rid of a whole group of these and you might find a couple at a thrift or whatever. So, and they don't take up much desk space at all, so if you have a little space like me, but you're not like obsessed with these old machines like me, so you only have room for 1 or 2, this is a good option for a nice Windows retro build. So thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, like the video, or dislike it. Again, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.